I never expected my life to change over scrambled eggs. But there I was, whisking eggs in our kitchen on a completely ordinary Thursday morning when the notification lit up my husband Mark's phone on the counter. He'd left it there while grabbing a shower before work, something he normally never did. The bright screen caught my eye, and the preview of the message made my hand freeze mid-stir. "Can't wait for our next night." It was from Allison, his assistant. My stomach dropped as if I'd stepped off a cliff. The wooden spoon I was holding clattered against the edge of the bowl, splattering egg across the granite countertop. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. The eggs started to congeal in the bowl, forgotten. Allison had been working for Mark for just over 8 months. Young, attractive, efficient. I'd met her a handful of times at office parties and thought nothing of her beyond a polite smile and small talk about the weather. Now her name on my husband's phone screen felt like a slap across my face. I put the bowl down with trembling hands and reached for the phone. Was I really going to do this? 15 years of marriage and I'd never once snooped through Mark's phone. We had always prided ourselves on our trust. But trust is a fragile thing. It takes years to build and seconds to shatter. The phone's screen had gone dark. I pressed the power button and there it was again. That message, hanging in the air between me and everything I thought I knew about my marriage. "Honey, have you seen my blue tie? The one with the stripes." Mark's voice called from upstairs, startling me so badly I nearly dropped his phone. "Check the laundry room," I called back, surprised at how normal my voice sounded while my insides were turning to ice. "I think I washed it yesterday." I had seconds to decide what to do. Confront him now? Wait and watch? My brain scrambled for options as quickly as my forgotten eggs. Something inside me, something cold and methodical that I didn't recognize, took over. I opened his phone, his password was still our anniversary date, and took a screenshot of the message. Then I sent the screenshot to his own number, a digital boomerang that would return to him later today. After deleting the outgoing message from his sent folder, I placed the phone exactly where it had been and returned to the stove. By the time Mark came downstairs knotting his tie, I was sliding eggs onto plates and pouring coffee as if my world hadn't just tilted on its axis. He grabbed a piece of toast, kissed my cheek and picked up his phone without looking at it. "I might be late tonight," he said, pocketing the device. "We've got that Henderson presentation tomorrow and Allison and I need to finalize some details." Allison and I. The words hung in the air between us. "No problem," I replied, the lie bitter on my tongue. "I've got book club anyway." I didn't have book club. I dropped out months ago when they switched to true crime novels that gave me nightmares. But Mark hadn't noticed and right now, I needed him to think I'd be occupied. As he headed for the door, memories flooded through me, a slideshow of our history together. Our wedding day when he'd cried as I walked down the aisle. The night we stayed up painting our first apartment, ending up with more paint on ourselves than the walls. The way he'd held my hand through my father's funeral, his steady presence the only thing keeping me upright. Had it all been a lie? Or had something changed? When had we started drifting so far apart that he could turn to someone else without me noticing the distance growing between us? My hands shook as I cleared the breakfast dishes. 2 plates, 2 cups, 2 lives that had been intertwined for so long I couldn't imagine mine without his. Now I was facing the possibility that he had already begun to imagine his without me. I called in sick to my job at the elementary school where I taught 3rd grade. Mrs. Peterson would cover my class and right now I couldn't face 28 kids with their innocent questions and perceptive eyes. Some of them would notice something was wrong, and I couldn't explain what I didn't yet understand myself. Alone in our silent house, I found myself wandering from room to room like a ghost. In our bedroom, I stared at the photos on the dresser. Us hiking in Colorado, laughing at his brother Tom's wedding, building sandcastles on the beach in Florida. Had there been signs I missed? Nights when he was distant? Moments when his smile didn't quite reach his eyes? I sat heavily on our bed, the bed we'd picked out together at a Labor Day sale 6 years ago, haggling with the salesman until we got the mattress thrown in for free. Mark had been so proud of that negotiation, high-fiving me in the parking lot afterward. My chest felt tight like someone was standing on my sternum. I forced myself to breathe slowly, in and out, fighting the panic that threatened to overwhelm me. I needed to stay calm. Needed to think clearly. The rational part of my brain, the teacher part that broke up playground fights and mediated 11-year-old drama, tried to assert itself. Maybe there was an innocent explanation. Maybe our next night referred to work. A late night at the office, a business dinner, a corporate event. But the fear in my gut told a different story. I checked my watch, 10:15 a.m. Mark would be in his morning meeting now, his phone tucked in his pocket or face down on the conference table. He wouldn't see my message until lunch, most likely. What would happen then? Would he call me, frantic with explanations? Would he ignore it, hoping I'd forget? Or would he reach out to her first, warning her, coordinating their stories? And what about Tom, Mark's brother? They worked at the same management consulting firm, though in different departments. Would Mark show him the message? Or would Tom happen to see it when Mark checked his phone? The waiting was unbearable. I made myself a cup of tea I didn't drink and turned on the TV to a show I didn't watch. The house that had always been our sanctuary now felt like a museum of potential lies. Every photo, every memento called into question. At 12:37 p.m. my phone buzzed with a text. My heart leaped to my throat, but it was just my mother asking if I wanted her casserole recipe. I typed a quick reply, my fingers clumsy with disappointed adrenaline. By 2 p.m., I'd worked myself into such a state that I decided to drive to Mark's office. I wouldn't go in, just sit in the parking lot and, what? Watch for Allison leaving early? See if Mark followed her? The absurdity of my plan hit me as I reached for my car keys. This wasn't me. I wasn't the kind of woman who spied on her husband. But then again, I never thought I'd be the kind of woman whose husband might be cheating. I put the keys down and sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. Whatever happened next would happen. I had cast the dice with that screenshot. Now I just had to wait for them to fall where they may. By 5:30 p.m. I still hadn't heard from Mark. My phone remained silent, a cold rectangle of nothing on the coffee table where I'd placed it hours ago. The screenshot I'd sent had been delivered, I could see that much, but no response came. Thursday night was family dinner at Mark's parents' house. A tradition that had started when his mother retired 5 years ago and decided that weekly gatherings were non-negotiable. Normally, I looked forward to these evenings of home-cooked food and familiar stories. Tonight it felt like walking into a minefield. I almost called to make an excuse. A migraine, a school emergency, anything, but some stubborn part of me refused to hide. If Mark was going to betray our marriage, he could at least look me in the eye over his mother's meatloaf. I dressed carefully, choosing a blue blouse Mark had once said brought out my eyes. My makeup was subtle but precise, armor against the vulnerability I felt. The woman in the mirror looked composed, but her eyes gave her away, wide and just a little too bright. The 20-minute drive to his parents' suburban home passed in a blur. Mark had texted he'd meet me there. Not unusual when he had a busy day, but tonight it felt calculated. When I pulled into the driveway, his car was already parked alongside his brother Tom's SUV. I sat for a moment, hands still gripping the steering wheel, and took 3 deep breaths like my yoga instructor always recommended for centering. It didn't help. Mark's mother answered the door with her usual enthusiasm, wrapping me in a vanilla-scented hug. "Sarah, we were just saying you must be running late. The roast is almost done." I summoned a smile. "Sorry, Patricia. Grading papers took longer than expected." The lie came easily, sliding into the space where truth used to live. The house was warm and smelled of rosemary and garlic. Through the archway to the living room, I could see Mark and Tom hunched over something on the coffee table, their heads close together in conversation. They straightened quickly when they heard my voice. "Hey honey," Mark called, his voice just a touch too cheerful. "We were wondering where you were." I kissed his cheek, searching his face for signs of guilt or worry. He looked tired but otherwise normal. The same man who had left our house this morning with no idea what I had discovered. Tom, on the other hand, couldn't quite meet my eyes. "Sarah," he nodded, grabbing his beer and taking a long pull. "How's school?" "Fine," I replied, watching how his gaze flitted around the room, landing anywhere but on me. Tom had always been the worst liar of the two brothers. Whatever they had been discussing, it had made him uncomfortable. During dinner, I found myself observing everyone with new intensity. Mark's father talked about his golf game, oblivious to the undercurrents. Patricia asked about my students and I answered on autopilot, my attention focused on Mark and Tom. They exchanged glances several times, quick darting looks that spoke volumes. "Sarah, you've barely touched your food," Patricia noted halfway through the meal. "Is everything all right?" 4 pairs of eyes turned to me. I pushed a roasted potato around my plate. "Just a long day," I said. "Everything's delicious as always." Mark reached for my hand under the table, giving it a squeeze. The familiar gesture that had always been our silent communication now felt like another betrayal. I resisted the urge to pull away. After dinner, the men retreated to the back porch for cigars. Another Thursday tradition. I helped Patricia load the dishwasher, my mind half on the task and half on what Mark might be telling his brother outside. "You seem distracted tonight," Patricia said gently, handing me a serving bowl to wrap. "Trouble at school? Or is it something else?" For a moment I almost told her everything. Patricia had always been more mother to me than my own had been. But what would I say? That I suspected her perfect son was having an affair with his assistant? That I had no proof beyond a vague text message and my own twisting gut? "Just tired," I repeated. "End of the semester crunch." She patted my arm, unconvinced but unwilling to pry further. "Well, you know I'm always here if you need to talk." I nodded, throat suddenly tight. What would happen to these family dinners, these relationships, if what I suspected was true? When Mark and Tom came back inside, they were noticeably tense. Tom grabbed his keys almost immediately, citing an early meeting the next day. As he hugged me goodbye, he whispered, "Take care of yourself, Sarah," with such gentle concern that I knew. He had seen the screenshot. The car ride home was silent. Mark drove, one hand on the wheel, the other restlessly tapping against the center console. I stared out the window at the passing houses, each one containing its own universe of secrets and lies. "Sarah." Mark finally broke the silence as we turned onto our street. "We need to talk." The 4 words every spouse dreads. I kept my eyes on the houses sliding by. "About what?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. He sighed heavily. "You know what? The message you sent me today. From Allison." "I didn't send you a message from Allison," I corrected him, turning to look at his profile in the dim light. "I sent you a screenshot of a message she sent you." Mark pulled into our driveway but didn't turn off the engine. "It's not what you think." "What do I think, Mark?" I asked quietly. "That there's something going on between me and Allison." "There isn't." "Then what does 'can't wait for our next night' mean?" The words came out sharper than I intended. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, staring straight ahead. "I can explain everything. But not here, not like this." "You had all day to explain," I pointed out. "You chose to show your brother instead." Mark looked startled. "I didn't." "Don't lie to me. I saw his face tonight." "He knows." Mark shut off the engine, plunging us into darkness. "It's complicated. Affairs usually are. It's not an affair." His voice rose in frustration. "Sarah, you've got to trust me. This isn't." "Trust you?" I interrupted, my own voice rising to match his. "Trust is earned, Mark. And right now you haven't earned it." I got out of the car and walked to our front door, hands shaking as I fumbled with my keys. Behind me, I heard his car door slam, his footsteps following me up the path. The night air felt cool on my hot cheeks. Inside our house, all the questions I'd been holding back all day waited for answers I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. That night, Mark slept in the guest room. He tried to explain, stumbling over his words in our living room, but everything he said sounded hollow. Business meetings, client relations, team-building exercises. Phrases that might have reassured me yesterday now felt like code words for something else. I cut him off halfway through his explanation and pointed to the stairs. "I need space," I said simply. "We'll talk tomorrow." Sleep evaded me all night. I tossed and turned in our suddenly too large bed, my mind spinning with questions. Around 4 a.m. I gave up and padded downstairs to make coffee, curling up on the couch with my laptop. If Mark was having an affair, there would be evidence beyond a single text. Financial evidence. Money leaves a trail, my accountant father always said. I logged into our joint checking account, something I rarely bothered with since Mark handled most of our finances. The password was still my middle name followed by my birth year. Too simple for security, I always teased him. For the first hour, nothing seemed unusual. Regular payments for the mortgage, utilities, my student loan, our car insurance. Then I noticed a pattern of cash withdrawals. $200 here, $300 there, always on Friday afternoons. Over the past 6 months, these withdrawals added up to nearly $5,000. My stomach clenched. Hotel rooms. Gifts. Secret dinners? I clicked through to our credit card statements next. Most charges were familiar: gas stations, grocery stores, Amazon purchases. But there were several payments to venues I didn't recognize: Lakeside Gardens, the Willow Room, Mountain View Estate. Each charge was between $500 and $1,200, and each occurred roughly 2 weeks after one of those cash withdrawals. Event venues, not hotels. I grabbed my phone and searched for Lakeside Gardens. The website showed an elegant converted boathouse that hosted weddings, corporate events, and special occasions. The Willow Room was similar, a rustic chic barn space advertised for life's meaningful moments. This didn't fit the pattern of an affair. Unless, were they planning to run away together? Was he setting up a new life with her? By 7 a.m. I heard Mark stirring upstairs. I quickly closed my laptop as he came down, disheveled and obviously sleep-deprived. "Sarah," he began, voice rough with fatigue. "Can we please talk now?" I held up my hand. "Not yet. I'm going out." His face fell, but he didn't argue as I grabbed my purse and car keys. I needed to talk to someone who might know what was happening, and I knew exactly who to start with. Lisa, Mark's sister-in-law, had always been straight with me. If Tom had seen that text and knew something, there was a good chance he'd confided in his wife. I texted her from my car. "Can we meet for coffee? Just us." Her response came quickly. "Come over. Tom just left for work. I'll put on a pot." Lisa answered her door in yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her blonde hair pulled into a messy bun. One look at my face and she pulled me into a hug. "Oh, Sarah," she sighed. "Come in." Her kitchen was bright and warm, toys from their 4-year-old scattered across the floor. She poured me coffee in a mug that read "World's Okayest Mom," and sat across from me at their breakfast nook. "Tom came home upset last night," she said without preamble. He wouldn't tell me why, but it had something to do with Mark. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. "Did he mention Allison? Mark's assistant?" Lisa frowned. "No. Should he have?" I explained about the text, the screenshot, Tom's reaction at dinner. As I spoke, Lisa's expression shifted from confusion to something more complex. "Sarah," she said carefully when I finished, "I don't think Mark is having an affair." "Then what's going on? Why the secret texts? Why is he withdrawing hundreds of dollars from our account every few weeks? Why are there charges to event venues I've never heard of?" Lisa's eyes widened slightly at this. "Event venues?" I nodded, pulling out my phone to show her the list I'd compiled. Lakeside Gardens, the Willow Room, Mountain View Estate. Recognition flashed across her face. The Wilson Chapman wedding was at Lakeside Gardens. My cousin attended. What does that have to do with anything? Lisa bit her lip. "I shouldn't say anything. It's not my place. Lisa, please. I'm going crazy here." She sighed, glancing toward the stairs as if to make sure her daughter wasn't coming down. "Look, I don't know all the details. Tom's been secretive too. But about 3 months ago I found a business card in his wallet. It said, Brothers Event Planning, with both his and Mark's names." "Event planning?" I repeated, confused. "That's not what they do." "I know. When I asked Tom about it, he got defensive. Said it was just a side project, nothing for me to worry about. But he's been going out some nights and coming home late, saying he was with Mark." I sat back, processing this new information. Event planning would explain the venue charges. But why keep it secret? "I need to see Mark's home office," I said suddenly. Back at our house, Mark's car was gone. Probably at work, though it was Saturday. I headed straight for his office, a small converted bedroom we'd painted hunter green last spring. His desk was immaculate as always, but when I started opening drawers I found what I was looking for: receipts. Dozens of them, neatly paper-clipped together. Catering services. Floral arrangements. DJ equipment rentals. And at the bottom of the drawer, a business card identical to the one Lisa had described: Brothers Event Planning, making your special day perfect. They weren't having affairs. They were running a side business. But why hide it from me? And how did Allison fit into all this? There was only one way to find out. I found her address in Mark's contacts on his desktop computer and grabbed my car keys again. It was time to confront the woman whose text had started this whole mess. Allison lived in a modern apartment complex across town, the kind with a fancy coffee shop on the ground floor and a rooftop pool. I sat in the parking lot for 15 minutes, rehearsing what to say before finally gathering the courage to approach her door. I knocked, heart pounding. What if Mark was in there with her? What would I do? The door swung open and Allison appeared in jeans and a Northwestern University sweatshirt, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger, more casual than she did at office functions. "Mrs. Davis," she said, clearly surprised. "Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath. "I need to talk to you about my husband. And about your text message." Her eyes widened and for a split second, I saw something like guilt cross her face. Then she stepped back, opening the door wider. "You'd better come in," she said. "There's a lot you don't know." Allison's apartment was minimalist and neat, white walls adorned with black and white photography, a small gray sectional, and a glass coffee table with a stack of event planning magazines. Not exactly the love nest I'd imagined in my darkest moments. "Can I get you something to drink?" she asked, gesturing toward her kitchen. "Water. Coffee." "I didn't come here for hospitality," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I want to know what's going on between you and my husband." Allison sighed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Mrs. Davis." "Sarah," I corrected. "If we were going to have this conversation, we might as well be on a first-name basis." "Sarah," she nodded. "What exactly did Mark tell you?" "That's just it. He's told me nothing that makes sense. But I saw your text about our next night. I found receipts for event venues. I know about the business cards." Allison's shoulders relaxed slightly. "So you know about Brothers Event Planning?" "I know it exists. I don't know why my husband has been hiding it from me." She gestured to the couch. "You might want to sit down for this." I perched on the edge of the sectional, watching as Allison pulled out her laptop and opened a folder labeled BEP Clients. "Brothers Event Planning started about 7 months ago," she began, turning the screen so I could see. "Mark and Tom were approached by an old college friend who needed help planning his wedding but couldn't afford the rates local planners were charging." The screen showed photos of a modest but elegant garden wedding. I recognized Mark and Tom in the background of one shot, both wearing earpieces and checking clipboards. "They pulled it off on a shoestring budget," Allison continued. "Word spread and suddenly they had friends of friends asking for the same service. It became a side business, affordable event planning for people who couldn't pay premium rates." "And where do you fit in?" I asked, still suspicious. "I handle the administration. Contracts, vendor coordination, client communications. It started as just helping Mark with paperwork after hours, but when things picked up," he shrugged, "we became a team." "That doesn't explain why Mark kept it secret from me." Allison looked uncomfortable. "That's not really my place to." "Please," I interrupted. "I need to understand." She hesitated, then closed her laptop. "The company, your husband and Tom's main job, it's not doing well. There have been layoffs every quarter. Their department is next on the chopping block." My stomach dropped. "Mark never mentioned any trouble at work. He was trying to protect you. The event planning was supposed to be a safety net, something to fall back on if they lost their jobs. They wanted to make sure it was viable before telling their families." "Our next night," I said, the words still bitter in my mouth. "You meant your next event?" Allison nodded. "The Peterson anniversary party next weekend. It's our biggest job yet, could really put BEP on the map locally." It made sense, yet something still didn't feel right. If this is all so innocent, why did Tom look so scared when he saw that screenshot on Mark's phone? Allison winced. "Probably because he knew how it sounded. And because..." She trailed off. "Because what?" "Because there's more you don't know." My suspicion flared again. "What more?" "It's not my place to tell you. You need to talk to Mark." I stood up, frustrated. "I've tried talking to Mark. He gives me corporate doublespeak instead of straight answers." Allison seemed to debate with herself before grabbing her phone. "Let me text him. This has gone far enough." While she typed, I wandered to her window, looking out at the parking lot below. A familiar car pulled in, Mark's silver Accord. My heart jumped to my throat. "He's here," I said, turning back to Allison. She looked up from her phone. "I asked him to come. You two need to talk and I'm tired of being caught in the middle." Minutes later, a knock came at the door. Allison opened it to reveal my husband, looking haggard and surprised to see me. "Sarah," he said, his voice a mix of relief and anxiety. "I've been looking everywhere for you." "Well, you found me," I replied, crossing my arms. At your assistant's apartment. Care to explain why you've been lying to me for months? Mark looked at Allison, who nodded encouragingly. I've told her about BP, she said. But the rest needs to come from you. Mark ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd seen 1,000 times over our years together. Can we talk somewhere private? Maybe go for a drive. I glanced at Allison, who gave me a small smile. Go, she said. And Sarah? For what it's worth, your husband talks about you constantly. All good things. In the car, neither of us spoke for several blocks. Mark drove aimlessly, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I'm sorry, he finally said. I should have told you everything from the beginning. Why didn't you? Don't you trust me? Of course I trust you. I was trying to protect you. From what? Side business planning parties? That doesn't make sense, Mark. He sighed deeply. The event planning isn't just a side business. It's a backup plan because the company is sinking. Tom and I will probably be laid off by the end of the quarter. Allison told me that much. But there's more, isn't there? Mark pulled the car into an empty church parking lot and turned off the engine. In the quiet that followed, he seemed to deflate. The medical bills, he said softly. They've been piling up. What medical bills? Neither of us has been sick. He wouldn't look at me. Not us. My dad. I stared at him, confused. Your dad is fine. We just saw him last night. He's not fine, Sarah. He has early-stage Parkinson's. They diagnosed him 6 months ago. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. 6 months. And no one told me. Mom didn't want anyone to know yet. Dad's still coming to terms with it. The medical bills, the specialists, the medications they're trying. It's expensive. Their insurance doesn't cover half of it. So you've been sending them money, I realized. The cash withdrawals. He nodded. And trying to build this business so we'd have income when the layoffs come. I didn't want you to worry about all of it at once. So instead you made me think you were having an affair? My voice cracked with the emotions churning inside me, relief mingled with hurt and anger. I never thought you'd see that text. Allison and I were talking about the Peterson event. She's excited because it could lead to more high-end clients. He reached for my hand. Sarah, I swear there's nothing between us except business. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? About your dad, about the business, about possibly losing your job. Mark squeezed my hand. You've already been through so much with your dad's death last year. I didn't want to burden you with more sadness, more worry. That's what marriage is, Mark. Sharing burdens. The good and the bad. He nodded, eyes glistening. I know. I messed up. I thought I was protecting you, but all I did was hurt you and make you suspicious. I looked out the window, processing everything. The fear and anger of the past 24 hours were receding, replaced by a complex mix of understanding and lingering hurt. Take me to wherever your next event is being set up, I said suddenly. I want to see this business of yours in action. Mark looked surprised. Really? Right now? Right now. If we're going to move past this, I need to see every part of your life that you've been hiding from me. Mark drove us to Mountain View Estate, a renovated farmhouse on the outskirts of town with sweeping views of the valley. The facility was beautiful. Rustic wooden beams, stone fireplaces, and floor-to-ceiling windows that let in the late afternoon light. Inside, Tom was directing a small team hanging string lights across the rafters, clipboard in hand. He froze when he saw me walk in with Mark. Sarah, he said, eyes darting between us. I didn't expect to see you here. Apparently there's a lot I've been missing, I replied, taking in the venue. Tables were being set up in one corner, a small stage in another. So this is Brothers Event Planning. Tom shot Mark a questioning look. I told her everything, Mark said. About Dad, about the layoffs, about all of it. Tom's shoulders slumped in obvious relief. Thank God. I've been telling you for weeks to come clean. You could have told me yourself, I pointed out, still hurt that my brother-in-law had kept such secrets. It wasn't my place, Tom said quietly. But for what it's worth, I hated lying to you. And to Lisa. She suspects something, I informed him. She found your business card. Tom winced. I should have known. She doesn't miss much. As we talked, I watched the workers transforming the space, creating something beautiful from an empty room. Despite my lingering anger, I felt a flicker of pride seeing what Mark and Tom had built. Who are the clients? I asked, noticing a banner being hung with Happy 40th Anniversary, painted in elegant script. The Petersons, Mark explained. Jack Peterson was our dad's college roommate. When they couldn't afford a proper 40th anniversary party, we stepped in. Can I help? The question surprised even me as it left my mouth. Mark looked startled. You want to help? After everything? I'm still mad at you, I clarified. But standing around watching isn't going to fix anything. And I've planned enough class parties to know how to set a table. For the next few hours I worked alongside them, arranging centerpieces, folding napkins into perfect triangles, programming the playlist for the evening. Allison arrived with boxes of custom cookies and immediately jumped in, her efficiency impressive even to my still suspicious eyes. As sunset painted the valley in gold and pink, I found myself alone with Mark near the bar setup. We make a good team, he said cautiously. We always have. I folded my arms, not quite ready to soften completely. A team communicates, Mark. A team doesn't keep secrets. I know. He rubbed the back of his neck. I messed up. But seeing you here jumping in like this, it reminds me why I fell in love with you. You don't hesitate when someone needs help. Your father needs help, I said, my voice gentler. And you should have told me. I could have been there for him, for all of you. You're right. I was trying to be strong, to handle everything myself. It's how my dad raised me. Don't burden others with your problems. I'm not others, Mark. I'm your wife. His eyes were sad but honest. I know. And I promise no more secrets. From now on we face everything together, the good and the bad. The Petersons' party was a success. Watching the elderly couple slow dance to their wedding song while surrounded by friends and family, I felt a knot in my chest loosen slightly. This is what Mark and Tom had been creating. Moments of joy in people's lives. As we packed up that night, exhausted but satisfied, Tom approached me with a hesitant smile. You know, we could use someone with your eye for detail, he said. The business is growing faster than we can manage while still working our day jobs. I raised an eyebrow. Are you offering me a job? More like suggesting a partnership. You're organized, creative, and frankly better with people than either of us. The idea took root immediately. Unexpected but somehow right. Teaching was rewarding, but lately I'd felt restless, ready for a change. Let me think about it, I said, though in my heart I was already considering the possibilities. The next morning Mark and I sat at our kitchen table, really talking for the first time in months. I'd made my special cinnamon rolls, a peace offering of sorts, and we lingered over coffee, rebuilding the connection that had frayed without either of us noticing. I want to see your father, I said. Not just at Thursday dinners but really see him. Help him research options, go to appointments if he'll let me. He's my family too. Mark nodded, reaching for my hand. He'd like that. Mom's been carrying this alone, she could use the support. And we need to be honest about money, I continued. All the accounts, all the expenses, everything on the table. No more secret withdrawals. Agreed. Total transparency. And I'm thinking about Tom's offer, I admitted. Not full-time, at least not right away. But I could help on weekends, see if it's a good fit. Mark's face brightened. You'd be amazing. Your third-grade holiday parties are legendary. Imagine what you could do with an actual budget. I laughed, the sound unfamiliar after days of tension. Those pipe cleaner reindeer were works of art, thank you very much. As we cleared the breakfast dishes together, I felt the foundation of our marriage settling back into place. Not exactly as it was before, but perhaps stronger in the repaired places. 3 weeks later we hosted a family dinner at our home. Mark's parents came early and I took the opportunity to sit with his father on the porch swing, the same swing where he'd taught me to whittle during my first Christmas with the family. Mark told me, I said simply, about the Parkinsons. He nodded, his calloused hands resting on his knees. Figured he would eventually. I told Patricia we shouldn't burden you kids with it. It's not a burden to care about someone you love, I said, echoing the words I'd said to Mark. His smile was crooked but warm. You always were the wise one in this family. Inside, the house filled with voices as Tom and Lisa arrived with their daughter, followed by Allison and her boyfriend. The dining room table groaned under dishes both familiar and new. Patricia's meatloaf alongside my experimental lasagna, Tom's famous garlic bread and Lisa's peach cobbler. As we gathered around the table, I caught Mark watching me, his eyes full of a love that had weathered its first real storm. "I'd like to make a toast," I said, raising my glass. "To new beginnings, to honesty, and to family businesses." Everyone clinked glasses, smiling at our inside joke. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Mark's impending layoff, his father's health, the growing pains of our fledgling business. But tonight, looking around at these faces I loved, I knew we would face it all together. Some texts weren't harbingers of betrayal but catalysts for truth. Sometimes what seemed like an ending was actually a beginning. And sometimes, the ruins of broken trust could be rebuilt into something even stronger than before.